A single root feeds 500 million people and contains a blend of amino acids that should make it a nutritional hero. Yet cassava is banned or strictly controlled in 38 countries. Its reputation has been shaped by colonial trade, ancient fears, and a hidden toxic twist. If a crop can nourish civilizations yet spark global bans, what secrets are buried in its tangled history? The answer begins deep in the Amazon, 10,000 years ago. On a river bluff above the Madeira, archaeologists sifted through layers of ancient earth and found something remarkable. They uncovered heart-shaped phytoliths, microscopic silica bodies left behind by cassava roots. Radiocarbon dating of these soils from the Teotonio site in southwestern Amazonia places the first evidence of managed cassava cultivation at nearly 10,000 years ago. In the Llanos de Moxos, just across the border in Bolivia, forest islands preserved even older traces, manioc phytoliths from more than 10,000 years before present. These tiny mineral markers outlast the roots themselves, which rot quickly in the humid soil, leaving behind only a chemical fingerprint of the people who grew them. The story written in this soil is one of deliberate care. Early Amazonian families didn't stumble across cassava by accident. They selected, planted, and harvested it alongside squash, beans, and wild fruits, shaping the land with their choices. In these dark, fertile patches, known today as anthropogenic dark earth, phytoliths and starch grains from processed tubers show up again and again, confirming that these ancient farmers were not just foragers, but stewards of a domesticated crop. This legacy lives on in the hands of their descendants. Among the Kayapo and Yawanawa, traditional slash-and-burn plots still yield dozens of cassava landraces, each one tied to family memory and ritual. Oral histories trace the lineage of these varieties back through countless generations, maintaining a genetic reservoir that mirrors the earliest domestication events. Genomic studies of modern cassava confirm the story told by the earth: a single origin, a long arc of selection, and a plant shaped as much by human intention as by the wild forests of the Amazon. The roots of cassava run deeper than most realize, entwined with the very beginnings of agriculture in the Americas. By the early 1500s, Portuguese ships loaded with unfamiliar crops sailed from the coast of Brazil across the Atlantic among cacao and tobacco. Cargo manifests from 1525 list sacks of mandioca, cassava, headed for the port of Luanda. The tuber, once rooted in Amazonian dark earth, now crossed oceans as part of the Atlantic trade. Portuguese traders saw its value as a reliable food for enslaved people on plantations, and cassava's journey began to reshape diets far beyond its birthplace. Jesuit missionaries arriving in West Africa soon after carried more than scripture. Letters from the mid-1600s describe how they taught local communities and enslaved Africans the crucial steps of grating, soaking, and fermenting cassava, passing on the hard-won Amazonian knowledge needed to make the root safe to eat. In these letters, cassava appears as both a blessing and a lesson, a crop that could feed many, but only if handled with care. African farmers adapted the crop with remarkable speed. Plantation records from Angola and the Congo show cassava fields multiplying within a generation, and enslaved people carried both roots and recipes to the Caribbean. On islands like Barbados and Saint-Domingue, cassava flour became a staple for both plantation kitchens and maroon communities. Meanwhile, Portuguese feitorias, trade outposts, sent cuttings east, introducing cassava to Mozambique, Goa, and the bustling ports of Indonesia. By the end of the 17th century, cassava had found a home in African, Asian, and Caribbean food systems, each region blending its own traditions with the techniques carried across oceans by traders, missionaries, and the enslaved. The root that began in Amazonian gardens now anchored meals from Lagos to Jakarta, its spread driven not by conquest alone, but by the hands and memory of those who relied on it to survive. A single serving of cassava root delivers about 160 calories per 100 grams, almost all from carbohydrates. This makes it a reliable energy source in regions where food security is fragile. But beneath the surface, the story of cassava nutrition is more complicated than numbers on a label. The root contains all 9 essential amino acids, yet the amounts of lysine and methionine are so low that they fall short of what the human body needs for growth and repair. Cassava protein content, hovers around 1.4 grams per 100 grams, a fraction of what is found in beans or even wheat. Early development programs, hoping to boost its reputation, once called cassava a complete protein. Modern nutrition science has set the record straight. While the root's amino acid profile is broad, it is not balanced. On its own, cassava cannot supply all the building blocks for muscle, immune function, or healthy development. The answer lies in combination. Across West Africa and the Amazon basin, cooks have long paired cassava with legumes, fish, or eggs, foods that fill in the missing amino acids and transform a starchy base into a nourishing meal. This practice, born from generations of experience, is now backed by laboratory analysis. Cassava's real strength is its role as a canvas. It provides energy, and when matched with other protein-rich foods, it supports a complete diet. Beyond calories and protein, cassava root offers something less visible but increasingly valued, a type of resistant starch that passes through the gut undigested, feeding beneficial bacteria. Studies show that regular cassava consumption can increase the abundance of bifidobacterium in the intestines, supporting digestive health and possibly lowering inflammation. In this way, cassava's story is not just about what it lacks, but about how it fits into the wider tapestry of traditional diets, offering energy, supporting gut health, and inviting creative combinations that make the most of what the land provides. Raw cassava root carries a hidden danger. Inside each tuber, cyanogenic glycosides can reach concentrations as high as 500 milligrams per kilogram, enough to make a child sick, or worse, if eaten uncooked. Even so-called sweet varieties are not risk-free, with levels often exceeding 40 milligrams per kilogram. When drought or poverty forces families to rely on cassava alone and shortcuts are taken in the kitchen, tragedy can strike. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, the neurological disease known as Konzo has paralyzed thousands, mostly children, after periods of famine. The cause is chronic exposure to cyanide from improperly processed cassava. But the story does not end with risk. Across the tropics, communities have developed a toolkit of solutions, refined over centuries, to make cassava safe. The process begins with peeling and grating, then soaking the pulp in water for at least a day. Fermentation follows, sometimes with the addition of wild starter cultures, before the mass is pressed, dried, and finally cooked. Each step breaks down and washes away cyanogenic compounds, dropping their concentration below 10 milligrams per kilogram, a level considered safe by the World Health Organization. These methods are not just tradition, they are proven technology. When the World Health Organization launched processing workshops in affected Congolese villages, the results were immediate. Within 5 years, Konzo cases dropped by 70%. Epidemiological studies traced this decline directly to the adoption of thorough detoxification practices. The lesson is clear. The knowledge carried by local cooks and farmers is as effective as any modern intervention. Protecting health and preserving the value of a vital crop in the hands of those who understand it. Cassava transforms from a threat into a foundation for nourishment and resilience. Across much of the world, cassava faces a wall of regulations that few other staple crops encounter. In the European Union, strict plant health laws require that every shipment of cassava undergo laboratory testing for cyanide residues and quarantine screening for the whitefly, Bemisia tabaci, a pest known for spreading the devastating cassava mosaic virus. Australia's Biosecurity Act lists cassava as a high-risk import, demanding permits and proof that roots are free of both pests and excessive cyanogenic compounds. In Japan and Singapore, importers must submit samples for residue analysis before the crop can enter the food supply. These policies are rarely about nutrition. Parliamentary records and official statutes cite biosecurity and public health, but hidden beneath the legal language are powerful economic interests. In the United States, there is no outright ban, but historical trade documents from the PL 480 Food for Peace program reveal a calculated focus on wheat, corn, and rice, leaving cassava out of development aid and global grain markets. Corporate archives from major grain exporters show decades of lobbying for grain-centric trade agreements, reinforcing a food system where tuber crops like cassava remain on the margins. In Nigeria, a new kind of cassava took root in test plots,
engineered for lower cyanide and higher protein, the result of a partnership between the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture and global biotech funders.
Around 800 million people depend on cassava for daily calories, yet global bans still shape its future. As food insecurity rises, the debate isn't just about nutrition or regulation, it's about who decides what feeds us. The next food revolution may already be growing underground. Share your perspective below.